Rollercoaster Tycoon's original scenarios have excellent gameplay progression. This is the first scenario, Forest Frontiers. It's a very simple landscape, being a clearing in the middle of a forest. The only obstacles to build around are the trees around the perimeter. With an objective of 250 guests at the end of year 1, this park is here to teach you the very basics of the game. It does not overstay its welcome. The short length of the scenario helps to teach the player that they can continue building after the objective is complete. The next scenario is Dynamite Dunes. This is the first desert map, and it teaches the player about landscaping. The large dunes act as an obstacle. The player must learn how to deal with them. This map includes the iconic Dynamite Blaster roller coaster, which exists as part of the tutorial. It teaches the player what they can do with the landscaping. It's built into a large pit in the ground with plenty of tunnels. The length of the scenario also gives the player time to become accustomed to the research system and the weather system. Up next is Leafy Lake. This park starts with nothing but a path around a large body of water. It teaches you space management because the area around the edge of the park isn't all that big, and it's more expensive to build over the water. This is where the game will teach the player to build on a smaller scale, something that will come in handy later on, as some of the scenarios use that to challenge the player. And when the player has earned enough money, they can start to use the large open space in the back of the park for larger coasters. Up next is Diamond Heights. This is where the game really gets going. The scenario here isn't about attracting guests to a brand new park, but rather maintaining an existing park. You start off with some very impressive rides, but the park has major flaws to it that need to be addressed. There are no food stalls, and the staff patrols are very inefficient. This may lead to new challenges that the player has not encountered yet, such as ride crashes. Situations like these may force the player to think about editing rides, and as they expand the park, they may consider adjusting other rides, such as the railroad, to add an extra station. Diamond Heights teaches the player that parks with existing rides can always be adjusted. Finally, we have Evergreen Gardens, a very large map with a lot of landscaping features. This park teaches the player about long-term planning, and it's much more spread out than the other scenarios so far. The park will teach players path management because early on, guests may wander off into the outside edges of the park, away from all of the rides the player has built. The player will have to decide if they want to concentrate their rides towards the entrance at the beginning of the game, or spread out and deal with the challenges that come with that. It's a map that forces the player to think ahead. From here, the scenarios develop along these lines. The difficulty gradually ramps up and you get a good mix of parks with existing rides, some blank slates with interesting landscapes, and even some truly wacky stuff like mountains. No park is truly overwhelming. The challenges of the first parks prepare you for everything that you have to deal with after. Rollercoaster Tycoon's scenarios teach you the game bit by bit, slowly over time, so that when you get to the truly challenging parks, you already know what to do. This is why Rollercoaster Tycoon's original scenario set is the gold standard for Tycoon game progression, and why it's still worth playing today. All of these maps have replay value, even Forest Frontiers. It has a large amount of land available for purchase, and you can always use lessons you've learned in previous runs on your newest parks. I encourage everyone playing the game through OpenRCT2 to get an installation of Rollercoaster Tycoon 1. It's still worth playing, even to this day. the Options menu, go to the far right tab, and you can add a path to your RCT1 installation and open RCT2 and play the scenarios on that.